Joining me now, author of The War on Small Business and former investment banker, my friend Carol Roth. Carol, let's begin at the beginning here before I get to Bloomberg and all the other stuff. Supply chains. People were hearing that word a lot. Joe Biden actually got up to the podium yesterday and pretended like he understood what the word meant, which was hilarious. But would you please explain to people what exactly supply chains are? Is it an actual chain?
I mean, these days it kind of is. It's a chain that's binding us and making everything more expensive. But it's basically all of the interconnected individual steps that allow for goods and services to get manufactured and then get to the different consumers around the world. And obviously, over time, we've liked to try to engage in some level of free markets, free choice that helps to get goods to where they need to go at prices that consumers think are reasonable. The problem is that central planners always think they know better than everybody else. And so they get involved and they make decisions, and they usually focus on one thing, and they don't realize that that has ripple effects throughout the entire economic system, including the supply chain. Or perhaps they do realize that, and we're looking for some economic chaos. It's a choose your own adventure book. You can decide. So all of the decisions that have been made, both here in the U.S. and worldwide, in terms of shutting down the economy, keeping people out of the workforce, the extended unemployment benefits to keep them out even further, uncertainty around sending kids back to school, keeps people out of the labor force. It means there's a shortage of goods that are being produced. At the same time, we've printed tons of money, so there's a lot of dollars that are chasing this more limited supply of goods and services. And then, of course, keeping people out of the labor force, we don't have things like truck drivers to get the things from point A to point B. So it's really a cluster. I won't finish that word, but you can choose your own adventure and fill that in. And that was done not by capitalism, but by central plan.
Bloomberg. America needs higher and longer lasting inflation. Okay. Explain to me why this would possibly be good for America. I understand if you work at Bloomberg, or if you're possibly an investment banker or speak into a television set for a living, you're probably doing okay financially, so you don't care if the cost of beef goes up 10%. But most people don't get to do this for a living. They have real bills. They can't afford this stuff. Carol, how does this help them?
Yeah, I mean, this is the epic gaslighting that's been going on really around all of these economic topics, but in particular with inflation. First, we were told, inflation wasn't going to get out of control, so we're going to, do these things and they make sense. Then we were told, well, inflation's going to run hot, but it's going to be transitory. It's only for a limited time. Now that, it's clear that that's not the case. Now they're trying to find the new spin, and the new spin is inflation is great for you. The reality is that inflation is a tax. It's something that obviously affects everybody, but the burden of it is paid by or borne by the poor and the middle class, because at the same time that we're dealing with the fact that every one of your dollars is buying fewer goods and services, which is not a good thing by anyone's stretch of the imagination, those are usually the people that have fewer assets that are being inflated in value. So again, that the value of the dollar is being diminished, and it hurts everyone, but it doesn't hurt the wealthy as much. They're not paying as much of their income for basic needs, and they have the assets to offset it. So anytime anyone is trying to tell you that inflation is a good thing, that is a bald-faced lie, and you should call them out on it.
Carol, I don't know what you're talking about, lies. These people don't lie. I mean, I have fact checkers on Twitter. They rushed out and said the supply chain problems in California, they're a direct result of the pandemic. I mean, they wouldn't be lying. That certainly has nothing to do with the pandemic response, right? I mean, it's coronavirus that shut down these ports.
Yes, as I've said the whole time, the black swan was not the pandemic. The black swan was the government reaction to the pandemic. Nobody had on their bingo card that the government was going to say we were going to shut down large swaths of the economy for extended periods of time, and that we're going to make these chain of ridiculous decisions, which again, completely obvious in their outcomes. So this is not a pandemic issue. This is a government reaction to the pandemic issue. And there have been a lot of places around along the way where they could have just stopped. You give them a little bit of a pass maybe in the beginning to say, well, things were chaotic and they weren't sure. But the fact that we're 19 months in and we're still seeing continued idiocy, and on top of it, I mean, the worst is yet to come. I mean, we haven't even talked about the quote unquote infrastructure bill or the social spending bill that wants to throw more dollars on top of this inflation flame, and the vaccine mandates that are keeping people out of the workforce and trying to peek into people's bank accounts. I mean, there's so many things that are coming down the pike where they're doubling down and tripling down on bad decisions that we can't even see that light at the end of the tunnel because it's just darkness on the other side.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the first on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me.